10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy MA Day.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us. We have a lot of cool things to show off and talk about.
For example, what?
I was hoping you were going to do that part.
Okay.
We have the Karkanda driving in the game. We have the new electrical grid system to show off, power generation, both wind and solar. The move to Unreal 5 engine, although you guys won't really be able to appreciate that on a stream as much as you will in-game. And then we have the addition to the Karkanda to the MCC, mining on the MCC. There is a lot of stuff that's been added over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, so thanks Nick for this intro. So I think a lot of you are already testing the ground, testing your lands, and trying to explore them and mine. So here I'm showing the screen what's happening. What's happening with my land. Good news. We managed before this weekend. So we launched our second vehicle collection, and we have Karkandas now. So our great mining vehicles, they are already in the game, and you can find them on inventory on MCC or on the store as well. And good news, I think there's only one Karkanda epic left. So there's crazy. Yeah, there's crazy popularity about Karkanda epic. So that's amazing. So Nick, thanks for Nick and his team for all this great input on this monstrous vehicle. So it's 3 times bigger than Caripen. I think we set the bar really high, and collection of 3.
Of this first set of 4 vehicles, this is by far the largest.
Yeah,
by far the largest. And you'll see in the game, I have a nice little base production facility going, and when you compare the Karkanda, the vehicle is literally larger than the entire base that I built. It's not a really big base, nice little 2-story building with a bit of everything, but it is a monstrous vehicle.
Yeah. So today, basically, Nick will show you how to drive that around. But before jumping into that, I have one quite important community update, and I think you guys are doing amazing job as well. So on Mars YouTube channel, we have the community section, and what's happening there. So all your creations, they're being added in here, and thanks a lot for sharing all these beautiful things. And we're definitely looking in the future to introduce some more competitions and community content creation, rewarding ideas.
Those videos that people have created are they're so cool and motivating. It's crazy. A lot of people have sent us their save game files and stuff so that we can hold on to them and do stuff with them in the future. And it's crazy when you walk around some of those buildings, like some buildings, like they're full town cities at that point. Like it's just crazy cool.
By the way, you know what's funny thing is Mars4 channel, because of this, became a favorite channel of my kid instead of Gecko's Garage. Now he's actually going through that and, and enjoying, like, Dad, can you show me this vehicle or that vehicle? Yeah, good stuff. So guys, please, when you post the content, the videos, you just tag us, and nice ads. Hate them. So please tag us in there, and we will share. We will repost on that. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Nick, so let's move to to the next part.
Yes, give me a second. Okay.
And yeah, from the reactions, I see that the mining and exploring and mining function is working pretty well. So, guys, if you experience some bugs, yeah, we will please report those. A reminder that for those who were stuck in the first exploring loop, we will do the refund. I believe it's scheduled, yeah, during this week. So yeah, let's keep playing. Let's keep playing. Keep playing.
I'm just going to set up the vehicle for a nice reveal.
Sure.
Okay. So let me share my screen. Share. Okay.
There we go.
So there's my small little outpost. And here is my solar and wind generation. And here's the Karkanda. Let's hop in. Do a bit of a size comparison of the Karkanda in comparison to the base that I have here. On top of the base, you can see some solar panels as well. I'll present how the electrical system works in a little bit. Over here, I also have some different tiers of solar panels and a bit of a wind farm going. And one question that we get asked a lot, or one of the questions that the community actually asked for this AMA, was in game, what will be like the values of the Karkanda? And the main value, as is in the name, is in transporting colonists and mechs for mining operations. However, in addition to that, it also has a huge inventory space, which is, people who have been playing the game will know that a colonist will start becoming over encumbered if they're trying to carry more than 500 kilograms. In the Karkanda, you can, I believe, fit like around 80,000 kilograms of equipment. That may change over time with balancing and feedback to this first round of testing, but it is a very capable transport. And what isn't implemented right now, but we'll be seeing in the next iteration of the vehicle driving systems, as you can see in the bottom right of the HUD, you see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are gear ratios, and the Karkanda has a lot of low-end gear ratios to be able to climb steep cliffs with huge amounts of inventory capacity. Because in the next update to vehicles, not this one that's going live today, but in the following one, we'll be adding in that the inventory, the resources and equipment and cargo that a vehicle is carrying will be affecting its mass in physics, using like in the real physics system. So if you load this thing down, doubling its weight with resources and so forth, a less capable vehicle would really struggle to move around, and you would feel that in its movement characteristics. A Terrapin, if you load it down to its max, you will see a dramatic drop in its performance. Whereas the Karkanda, although it is slower than the Terrapin, it's far less agile. People who are driving around Terrapins right now will recognize that this is a lumbering behemoth in comparison to a Terrapin. However, you can load this thing down with effectively multiple Terrapins worth of mass, and it will still be able to drive around and function fairly efficiently without too big of a hit to its top speeds, accelerations, and climb rates.
Right. So in a way, it's like a monster tractor.
Yes, exactly. That's a very good example. A tractor will always be outrun by basically everything,
Yep.
but put 5 tons in the back of a Toyota Corolla and see how fast it moves.
Yeah. Okay, so that explains as well this low gear ratio needed, and so
it also had, due to its size, it has a very high ground clearance, which makes it really easy to drive over most things in the game. As people notice, like with the Karkandas, it's very easy especially at higher speeds and stuff, to run into stuff, to get stuck on rocks. And this, like, you rarely run into those problems with a Karkanda.
Right.
So the next thing I want to show is actually what you're seeing here. This is my electrical system. So I'll explain why it's all wired on the outside in a moment for aesthetic reasons. But let's start over here at where the power is generated. So I have a series of wind turbines, smaller ones, like these are tier 2 wind turbines, and these are some larger tier 3 wind turbines. And you'll notice these wires between them. These are electrical wires. So the way electrical system works is you take out the wiring tool, you can cut a wire, and then you'll see on each one of these objects, there is a little outlet. So you can plug the wire into the outlet, then just drag the wire where you want to go, select the next outlet, and plug it in. If it's green, that means electricity is flowing. If it's black, it means the circuit is unpowered. So what I've done is I've connected this solar panel to this windmill, to this windmill, to this windmill, creating an electrical loop between all of them. And here, another wire coming out here, which is going into this transformer. The reason I need to take you into a transformer is anyone who knows anything about transmitting electricity, you have losses over longer range cables. So what the electricity that's running through like power lines is not the same electricity that's running through your wall outlet. You transform it to be significantly higher voltage and lower amperage, so you lose a lot less in heat of the wiring. So that's what transformers do. And in the game, the way we've represented it is, I'll cut this wire. And if I stick a wire here, I can only make it go so far before the game will block you from being able to pull it any further. This is a simplified version of those transformer losses. But if you hook it into a transformer, I missed. If you hook it into a, I cannot reach it.
You need a chair to climb up.
A little bit too far away, but it was just plugged in there. One sec. Let's build another transformer. Yes, it's a little bit too far away. No, this is the transformers I need to build on top of stuff, not the transformers on a stick. You know what? I don't think I can build these solar panels on the ground. I'm going to go into cheat. I'm going to use this solar panel as a relay to get a bit closer to the transformer. See, there are relays and stuff, and I'll present how they work in a moment, but I just had this on hand. So now these solar panels are kind of interesting. There's a tier 2 solar panel you can place on rooftops, and you'll also be able to place them on walls and stuff like that. They're not nearly as efficient as these tier 3 solar panels, but they're a lot easier to place around because you can just lay them flat across a rooftop that you've already built. So anyway, so I've connected a wire to the transformer, and now that lets me, as you'll see here, run a way much longer cable. So I have that transformer running all the way to here. Now here are the switches that I was telling you about. So I have one wire coming in here, then I have a switch that gives me a whole bunch of different outlets. And the reason I put it on the outside, and I've run it around my building here, is to keep the wires nice and orderly. So I'll get to this in a moment. If we go inside here, all of these machines are powered by electrical cables, but it's all neat and tidy. You don't see many wires like running through walls and stuff like that. Now, if you want to be lazy, what you could just do is run that one transformer out to like a pile of switches here in the middle, and then just wire everything out in a super ugly spider web, which is efficient. There's no reason not to do it, but I'm a bit OCD, and I like having everything neat and orderly. And based on the structures I've seen from most of our community, they are as well. So I look forward to seeing how they come up with interesting and efficient ways of wiring up their entire bases.
Yeah, and here we go. Is the first question, can power lines be destroyed by the weather or the occasional ATV ride?
They can't be destroyed by your ATV rides. However, there will be weathering effects on power lines in the future. And what we're going to be doing is we'll be introducing different kinds of cabling. So you'll have like external cabling, which is far more resilient. However, it'll cost more in copper and insulation and silicone per meter that you're using, whereas internal cabling will be far cheaper. But in general, cabling and switches are quite cheap because we don't want to penalize players for making elegantly organized electrical grids. Because obviously just spider web of wires is probably going to be cheaper, but that's not as fun. So that's an element where we subtracted a bit of realism to support a more enjoyable game experience. So here you have these displays that you can build and hook into your wall outlets. And on the left is how many watts the circuit is using. And on the right is how many, oh shit, I'm freezing to death. Is this on? I'll turn that heater on. Should start warming me up, hopefully. Ah, crap, I think I still have the heater bug. The bug that keeps coming back, which is very frustrating. Give me one sec.
Not very convenient time in the beginning.
No, it's not a very convenient time to be freezing to death.
Yeah. In the meantime, there's as well a question coming, quite interesting. Does windmills take into account the 99% less atmospheric pressure on Mars?
Yes, they do. But with that less pressure, you also have a lot higher wind speeds. So it's not a full 99% reduction in power, although it is a fairly extreme, like a fairly large reduction in power. Give me a moment.
I think you answered this. Will there be a loss of electrical output based on distance of wires?
At the moment, instead of calculating that loss, what we've just done is introduced like there's limits on how long you can make the wires, because that's a lot easier for us to process on the servers when we move into the full multiplayer stage. So because of that, we've just limited it to the length of wire, mimicking that system effectively. But if we were to calculate the loss over the distance of wires and different kinds of wires, it's a lot more overhead that the servers need to be dealing with. And that additional processing overhead will end up resulting in limitations like less players per server, less buildings per server, worse server performance, higher server operating costs, stuff like that. So the balance that we've found is just by trying to use length of cables that we let people build and transformers.
So, good. Okay, so you were showing the electrical power system.
On electrical grids, what you have is just different. As before, everything was powered with batteries. Now you have you have a variety of machines now that run on electricity. You need to hook them up to the grid and then just power them on, and they'll draw power from the grid. And that's this display that I was telling you about before. That's what's useful about them, is you can build them around your base, just make it easier to keep track of the power in your electrical grid. You also have floor-mounted displays, if you want. You can place around in the same way, placing them. See, it's not connected to anything. So let's hook it up to the circuit. Now you'll see it's displaying. Oh, I didn't realize I had one right in that corner. Never mind. But still, too much information is never bad. No, I take that back, but moving on. So here you can see, like right now, the circuit that I have that's powered by the 2 windmills, or 3 large, 2 small, and the 2 solar panels out there, produces 2,400 watts. And with the current that I'm drawing at the moment, which is this heater, this furnace, and a couple other things that are running, that's using up 1,000 watts. Now, at night, in dawn and dusk, solar panels lose efficiency. At night, they do nothing but look pretty, but looking pretty doesn't turn on the lights. And wind power is obviously not affected by time of day. However, it is affected by whatever the weather situation is. So with that in mind, having a fully renewable base requires a mix of different renewables energies, and it also requires battery backup systems. The battery backups, which are not in this version of the game, they'll be coming in about a week. The way battery backups work is the batteries that everyone has been using up until now to power all your machines, they can be placed inside of a battery backup machine. And if there is power in the circuit it's connected to, the backup will draw power from that circuit. And the moment that circuit runs out of power, instead of the circuit cutting off and going black on everything, the battery backup will convert into a generator and will start drawing power from the batteries to power that circuit. So when you're building a grid, you'll have to balance wind and solar outputs and their variability with battery backups. And it would probably be also a good idea to include at least one hydrogen generator in there as well, because it's a very energy dense element, and you can store hydrogen fairly easily on Mars. You can on Earth. It's really hard to store hydrogen here because it needs to be so cold to be efficiently contained. But on Mars, that's far less of a problem. So you can, I mean, you still do need to pressurize it, but less than you do here. So we have a well-rounded circuit would be gathering most of its power from wind and solar, and then you'd have battery backups to smooth out the peaks and valleys, and then hydrogen generator to bring online manually when you need more power than your system's able to provide. And in a future update, probably end of December timeframe maybe, or in Q1, we'll be adding in a variety of nuclear reactors, MMRTGs, fission reactors, and so forth, which you will be able to construct, which will take a ludicrous amount of resources to build up front. However, once they are constructed, they provide very stable, very reliable, very consistent power across decades.
For millennia.
But that will be a task that will come in many stages of construction, and it's not going to be an easy task for a single person to accomplish. Those are systems designed to provide electrical current for a colony of many, many players all working together.
Yeah, so to answer James' question, yes, this AMA is about what we are releasing with this patch.
This patch should go live in an hour. I wanted to have it go live before the AMA, but QA found a small bug right as I was about to launch it. So we're solving that bug, and it should be live in an hour or two.
So, Nick, there are a few more things you mentioned. With this patch, we have huge optimization efforts also put in. So Unreal 5 is one of the key things to mention. But when we discussed this week, you as well mentioned some really nice figures about improving the performance. So maybe we can share those with our community as well.
We've reduced, first of all, the game download size to around 3.5 gigabytes. So that's 90% smaller than it was.
Well, last week you said it's 5. Now it's 3.5. Nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure what changes we've done since it was 5, but we have done continued more optimization there. And as people who play the game will notice that it didn't come with any real costs to quality. Textures and stuff are all still very high resolution. So reducing the download size dramatically. This also should make the patcher much more reliable, because we did have issues with the patcher in the past, but that a big portion of it was due to just that the game was so large, there was so many files that it was needing to transfer over such a long period of time that it just small compounding errors would get worse and worse and could lead to patches failing, and then someone need to restart the patch and stuff like that. So with this, we expect to also see an improvement in reliability of our patcher, and also and secondly, in performance, we've had, depending on how built up your land is, we've added, what would that be? between 100 and 300% improvement in FPS. So I jumped inside the Karkanda so I don't freeze to death. So one thing also to show, the Karkanda is right now, if I try and drive it, I can't. It says at the bottom of my screen, oh, I just used someone else. Here, no fuel. So Karkanda runs on methane in this build. We'll probably be up changing that to hydrogen. Oh, no, actually, this was a bug in the current build. See, it actually says hydrogen on the bottle. It says H2, but for some reason it was named methane. But that's been fixed in the build that's going live. So you drop it into the fuel slide and then just turn on the vehicle. See, lights come on and then you begin driving.
Mhm.
The I don't know. Spoke too soon. Got stuck on a rock. Ah.
Oh, no. Switch to lower gear.
That's actually no. I clipped inside the rock.
Yeah.
I'm out, but that's a bug I'll need to look into. What was I saying? Oh, there is also, you will see on the bottom left of my screen, I just wrote my mouse here. That is the fuel efficiency that the Karkanda is currently experiencing. So at idle, it's around 2 liters of hydrogen per minute. But then as you see, as my RPM increases, fuel efficiency per minute goes down.
Okay.
So, that's something that once we add in manual gear changes, right now the Karkanda is automatic because we don't have the we haven't built the user interface for manually changing gears and stuff. But we'll be adding that in one of the upcoming updates. So the goal of that is trying to maintain the engine at the most efficient RPM range to be as fuel efficient as possible.
So basically, that should be a hell of Karkanda race with manual gear, and yeah, we can make a long range then.
Yep.
Drive. There was a interesting as well question, or even I'd say it's a suggestion from Alexei. Is it possible to enlarge the map and assign a route? So basically, use it as a navigation, as I understand, not as an autopilot, yeah, as a navigator.
By that, you're referring to the mini map in the bottom center of your screen
Yes.
here?
Yes, I suppose so. Yeah.
At the moment, there isn't, but you do have this map you can use, although as a navigation, it's not really useful as you're driving blind when it's open. But that is something we're looking at. What I foresee us probably doing is reworking this vehicle UI, because I created I don't have a picture right now, but when I was testing out the gear ratios and stuff for the Karkanda and driving around, I built a temporary just development overlay which showed engine RPM and torque and then each gear curve. And I was watching that to see where my engine RPM was to design the automatic transmission logic of when it should be gearing up and down. And I realized it was actually really fun just watching the vehicle drive and seeing the torque curve in real time and seeing where on the torque curve you should be changing up and down gears. And I think we'll probably want to integrate that into the actual vehicle HUD. But to do that, we'll need to redesign this. So what I'm thinking, if we do that, we'll probably build out the right side and show engine, torque curve, gear ratio, like the gear arcs. And then on the left side, and we'll put RPM and the gear change in there. And then on the left side, we'll put the mini map and we can make it a lot larger. And then we could have like a button to expand it for it to like take up this whole portion of your screen. So in short, at the moment, no, but it is something actually that we are planning in a rework of this HUD.
Somebody saw a water tank. Will it be also launched in this update?
We've, along with the electrical system, we've added about 20 new machines. We've split up. Previously, people will remember that we used one fabricator to make everything, and that fabricator was battery powered. We've introduced the first steps into the dividing up the tiers of all the machines. So now there's 3 types of fabricators. The first one being a portable fabricator, which is powered by batteries. And then the second 2 tiers are powered by the electrical grid. And in that tiering, we've also introduced different levels of refineries and other resources, such as water. That was the pump that you saw. Oh, there's a legendary character. Hello. The pump that you guys saw outside my base, that is for extracting frozen water from the dirt. Then we also introduced water purification systems, water storage systems, and water, if it's left in ambient surface temperature of Mars, then it will freeze, and you're not able to drink it when it's frozen. So there are storage tanks to keep the water heated enough so it can still be useful. If it freezes, you just need to put it in a heated container or carry it on your own inventory for a little bit for it to thaw out, but still, it's something to keep in mind. Then we have quickly. I'm just going to reload the game because I'm still freezing to death and I need to fix that bug.
Have you seen the question?
No, I wasn't looking at the stream.
Continue with other buildings. So yeah, we started with the watering system, and then so you mentioned there are 20 buildings. Basically, there's did you choose instead of battery power, hydrogen instead of a battery power of the vehicles?
There's
yeah.
There's many pros and cons of hydrogen versus batteries, and that part of the decision was we want to have a variety of we want vehicles to drive differently and feel differently and have different concerns. For example, the Click Beetle runs on electricity and comes with its own MMRTG, multi-mission radio isotope generator, MMRTG, I guess. That's what the Curiosity rover uses, where it has a small reactor that charges a battery, and then that battery works as basically a glorified capacitor for the other systems. So the Click Beetle runs like that, which gives a lot of range, a lot of utility. However, as you brought up, batteries are very heavy. Batteries take up not more space than hydrogen, but they are very heavy, and they are also more expensive to run. And electric output has its pros and cons versus hydrogen. And then there is also one completely unrealistic logic, is that combustion engines are cool. And the only realistic way you can have a combustion engine on Mars is by making it hydrogen. So we wanted to have at least some kind of combustion engine. And that's why some vehicles will run on hydrogen combustion engines. Others will run on hydrogen fuel cells, which power electric motors. Others are purely electric, like the Click Beetle. So there's a variety of stuff. Each one of them we try and make scientifically accurate to that propulsion and energy storage system's pros and cons. So
I believe that answers the question. When is Mac version? Yeah, we've been talking and aiming for that in Q1. So currently we have more focus put on the MCC development and the game loop to be developed in there. Fuzzy is anxious about the Karkanda V2 badge. Fuzzy, we still have epics. We still have one epic left. Classics in here, and there are a few legendaries. Yeah, so hopefully that answers those. Anyway, moving forward, Karkanda. So Karipen was interesting name. So where does the name from? Where does it come from, and how can we relate that with Mars? Or maybe we can do a little competition. If somebody from users, from players, they know what is the meaning of Karkanda name and where it comes from, yeah, maybe you can share some presents as well.
If anyone Googles it, they will instantly know the meaning.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So following the tradition that we have stuck with for all of our vehicles so far, Terrapin, Karkanda, Click Beetle, Shire, they are all based on animals, as a kind of a very human tradition for naming vehicles. The Karkanda is a scientific name for a species of rhino, and that's where the idea originally came from. Because the lore of the Karkanda is that it was not purpose built for use on Mars. It was originally uh, 50, 100 years before, I think it was like 70 years before the time setting of Mars4 game. It was originally a military transport to transport combat mechs. And when humanity started pushing to Mars, obviously they were on a timetable. They made use of what they had, and they found that the utility and the functionality and the ruggedness of a military transport such as the Karkanda was very useful on Mars. And that led to this batch of Karkandas, that the Karkanda NFTs that are for sale now. It's part of the reason why they were also in such a limited quantity, because this is not something that is being actively produced on Mars yet. At some point in time it may be, but it's not these are relics from a past age that are very well suited for this alien environment.
So you heard it, guys. We're getting shipments from the Earth. That's where Karkanda came from. Yeah, but in a way, I see it also as an interesting way, sort of, to kind of memorize this, extincted animal, white rhinoceros, which was massive. Yeah. Good. Shall we move on? With the next part. So, guys, there is still Karkanda classics left, as I mentioned. We have obviously whitelist discounts currently running up until tomorrow. Yeah, and sneak peek towards the weekend is that we have a Red Friday campaign, and one of the things we're trying to bring for the community as well. There has been a lot of talks about using Mars utility for Mars4 tokens for acquiring vehicles, lands. So guys, keep tuned. There will be a dedicated sale, and Mars4 tokens will be used for the whole weekend event. James,
there's a question that I just saw someone posted. Are you guys planning on re-rendering the land? And if yes, is it going to apply in game as well? Yes. Re-rendering the land in the 3D game? Yes. Like what you're seeing right now, this is very outdated. We've wanted to redo this for a while with a lot of improvements to the train generation pipeline that we've developed, but we just haven't had time to get around to it because there's been lots of other features we want to add. But now that we were also waiting to move over to Unreal 5, because that gives us a lot more flexibility in how we generate terrain. So that is something that will be happening probably sooner than later. I know I have one of my engineers who has been begging to have a week just to work on redoing the land. So that's something that will be coming soon, I imagine.
Cool. Good. We have a few more questions, Nick, to answer from the community on Discord, I'll probably read them out. So why are some resources such as lithium, copper, etc., not in the MCC and mineable with vehicles?
So the reason for that is we want to support we don't want the MCC to fully overshadow mining in the game, because that is going to be one of the jobs for active players to be doing in the 3D game. And in that situation, that's why we've selected certain resources which are rarer or harder to find on Mars or harder to extract, and limited them to only be in the 3D game, so that even if MCC mining and production supersedes what players do in game, there is still a select few set of resources that will always have value, and the only way to get them will be in game. Obviously, as you will have noticed, the majority of the resources on the MCC are the most commonly used ones and many of the most valuable ones. So a majority of the mining required for colonization of Mars can be done through the MCC.
Mhm.
However, when it comes to a select few, we wanted to keep those limited to the in the 3D game only.
Okay. So yeah, I think we touched upon this last AMA. So yeah, it's probably good to confirm as well. It's a related question. As I understand, the resource NFTs are currently only in the in-game wallet. Will there be an option to export them to our own wallet? It's quite interesting question, because we've been discussing, and is what is actually the use case of that. But let's say in our case, and at least in our plans, the peer-to-peer marketplace we are planning to introduce in Q2 will have an ability for players to swap resources, to trade resources. And what would be sort of the use case for taking exporting those resources to your own personal wallet? Yeah, maybe that would be an interesting discussion, and yeah, we can
I
continue.
think it may be a good thing to bring up with a DAO, because like with the Mars DAO, because we could do it. We didn't see a utility for it before, so we never even considered it.
Mhm.
But if that's something all the community would want for whatever reason, then we're not against it. It's just then the question of, would the community rather us invest development resources there versus somewhere else?
I've been thinking of some sort of, what could be if cases. Let's say we're talking with a few partnerships, and let's say integrating other metaverses, where users would use resources gathered on Mars, and then use that for building structures in their metaverses. That might be a case, but it requires a lot of development, and
That would be very cool.
that would be interesting. It's like you need to build something which requires the mineral which is only found on Mars. Yes. And sorry guys for our voices, there are two Barry Whites today, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit like this. Same question from 0x313v3n. Will we be able to produce fuel for vehicles and thus avoid the refueling fee we pay now?
That wasn't something that we were planning on doing. However, once again, that's something that we could discuss in the DAO. We were thinking that there needs to be in general, there needs to be burn mechanics for Mars4, not just for value of the coin, but more importantly, as a method to be filling up the community pool and funding for the development, paying for servers, etc. And fuel costs on the MCC seemed like a good way to do it, as after all, that is a situation where mining in game would require either a single person a lot of time or paying another person to do it. However, that's something that I think we could bring up in a DAO in terms of what its role we want to be in the future funding of the community pool, and at what scale we would want it to be. So that's something that we can discuss further. However, personally, I think that it's a good area for a Mars4 burn mechanic, because the equivalent in the game would be paying other players to do the work as well, which would be taxed in those transactions to add to the community pool. If we give a way to produce the fuel in the MCC, then we're going against a core economic balancing tenet, which is time is money. So what you're doing by sending your Karkanda out to mine you are exchanging. Oh, I ran out of fuel. You're exchanging. Why is that not working now? Oh, because that actually is methane. Whoops, my bad. I'll freewheel down the hill, then reload. When you're mining in the MCC, you're getting time because you have multiple Karkandas mining at once, etc. So if there is no payment there, then that can be an economic leak. Because in Mars4, when you're mining, sure, you could personally mine around without spending money, but the scale is very limited and it costs your time. Whereas mining on the MCC doesn't cost your time. So that's an important differentiation that we must account for some way to maintain a robust economy.
But I think, yeah, you made a good point that, in the future, once we have the full loop, once we see sort of numbers going, that's quite an important question for the community and for the DAO itself to answer as well. Probably answered this when you started showing Karkanda. Bakisha asked about Karkanda in 3D game having slots boxes for cargoes. So
yeah, as discussed earlier on in the AMA, the Karkanda does have inventory slots. You press tab while inside the vehicle to access the vehicle inventory, and you can unload inventory from your colonist inventory into your vehicle. And unlike your colonist, the vehicle doesn't get over encumbered. And honestly, I'm at the point I don't even remember what machines are in the current version of the game, but someone was asked about water. They have some water storage. This is some unfiltered water that came from the mine outside, this mine. Then we have methane production, collect to the power grid. We have some more water storage. Here we have a water filter. That you've seen. Lots of new different types of heaters, lots of different types of storage, small wall cabinets, larger ones, etc. This is the portable fabricator that I mentioned.
Right.
There is also, write that one there. There's also, what was it here? A atmospheric water gathering machine. The names, many of these names are still quite temporary. Then I'm trying to remember what else. Here's one of the medium-sized fabricators. What water filtration, medium water tanks, electric furnaces. Yeah, there was one here. Here's a furnace plugged into the power grid, and then the larger furnaces. I don't have one built at the moment. I'm fairly sure that we also added a lot of new decoratory props, but I can't remember. I'm not sure if the stairs and elevated platforms were included before. But we plan on adding many more of those as well. Oh, and then there is the wind turbines and stuff that I showed you outside. And you can have switchers and splitters. The switches are interesting. We'll be adding an automated switch as well. With a switch, I actually don't think I have enough resources lying around to mine it right now, though, to produce one. Do I have any here? No. Do I have? No. I need to pay someone else to go mine for me. I don't have enough resources to produce a switch right now. But what a switch does is it allows you to connect it to a circuit and you can turn off that circuit. But it works in an interesting way. Remember how wiring worked, where you connect a wire between machines and through switches and it makes one circuit. So right now, all of this whole base, all those power outlets, etc., are all connected on one circuit. If I put a switch, let's say I replace this with a switch, replace this splitter with a switch. If I turn that off, it cuts these wires effectively. That means that you can use that to have a single large circuit that you split into two smaller circuits. And then we have automated switches, which on certain conditions can split. And that's where it gets a bit more interesting in electrical system design. For example, you can have a switch that if the power generation gets too low in the circuit, it will cut. And that will cut off non-essential things. So you can have some guarantees that no matter what, your oxygen generators are always running. But it's possible that if wind cuts out and it's the middle of the night and your battery backup reserves is running low, a switch will trigger and that will turn off your lights. It'll turn off automatic doors. It'll turn off water filtration and narrow the circuit down to just be powering the oxygen filters, for example.
Nice.
Oxygen generators.
Look, Nick, do you still have something to show for the?
That covers most of the stuff we've added in the game. Yeah. Everyone else will be able to be playing this shortly and giving feedback, and I expect that we'll also have another patch out in a week or two based on the feedback we get back from you guys. So please, everyone, go on Discord, give your feedback, tell us what you think, tell us the opinions you have, and we'll look forward to implementing those ideas. And I think that covers the in-game stuff.
Yeah, we still have a few more questions to answer. One of the things I've been looking at was started sharing my screen just to keep you focused. What's the productivity increase for upgrading vehicles? That's a question from Fuzzy coming. So he was asking whether there's a possible to change rear tires, get more traction, etc., etc. So probably there is two questions I see. It was one the productivity impact for the upgrading. So we can answer yes. Probably not sure about the amounts finalized. And upgrading vehicles and let's say adding different type of tires to the rear and to the front. Maybe.
Yeah. There will be vehicle component upgrades. You can see them already. If you go on the MCC and look at each vehicle, you can see the slots that it has, and those are the slots for upgrade components. And different vehicles have different numbers of slots. So that, in a sense, can be a bit of a gauge on how far you can improve the vehicle's productivity, just how many slots of upgrades you can fit into it. By how much is hard to say, because we'll be having a variety of components we'll be introducing. Obviously, like better components will increase productivity more. What the exact range yet is, what will be the cheapest and the most expensive component hasn't been decided yet. We're still developing them and adding more as we go. And I foresee that being a continually expanding area, because I don't think there's any reason to put any caps on it. But at the end of the day, if as we see even in the real world with cars and vehicles and tools and everything, you can eventually spend an infinite amount in improving the productivity of a thing. You just get diminishing returns past a point. Like you can spend $3 million on upgrading a car to be as fast as possible, but it's the gap between that and a $1 million car or a $50,000 car, like it's not that big. So I think we'll want to support that as well for people who do want to produce those high-end things and trade and sell them amongst each other. But I foresee a majority of those upgrades being more in the low tier, most efficient bang for your buck kind of thing. But I mean, the point of a player-run economy is to let them build as much as they want, let them produce as much as they want, and themed production, I think, will be quite common.
Yeah, I think that Fuzzy, that answers your question at least. There are a few more related with mining resources on MCC and how we will transport to like in the 3D game to this like specific land plot, and will there be a transportation costs, how it will be calculated. And one could argue that for resources mined on a specific land, we shouldn't be charged any fee to be transported back to that land in 3D game, and so on. So yeah, it's one of our active community members, 0x.
I don't foresee us wanting to add that fee. I think that the fee, I guess one way to look at it, the operating cost on the MCC includes the mining extraction fee, because the point of the MCC is that it is a simplified system to allow for investors and traders and stuff to be able to engage with the game, with the world of Mars 4 without needing to sit down and install the game and play it. So via that logic, there is a lot of value in keeping the system as simple and accessible as possible for people just to be able to do on their phone while they're on the metro. So yeah, I think the best way to look at it is consider the operating cost of the vehicle includes the resource transportation cost.
Okay. Is there anything coming? No, not on the chat. There's one question about the colonists. So maybe some guys already sense that they are ready to appear in the game. Maybe next month. Yeah, we'll keep posted. But basically, the question is: the white paper says each player starts with one free colonist. Is this like one one colonist per wallet, or one per land? Would someone with 2,000 land NFTs in one wallet receive one free colonist, etc., etc.?
We made a decision about this a while back. I don't remember exact decision was. I believe it was one colonist per land, but I don't think you can quote me on that.
Yeah. That was the idea. We need to go back and look at the paper we signed with our blood.
I don't remember exactly what this is.
Yeah, but no, we've been talking about one colonist per land, because this is a vast territory, and that was sort of the idea at the very beginning. Yeah, but guys, if you have any other suggestions, we can always discuss that. The same guy, different question. What will be the income source available for non-land owners? Currently, the white paper is only selling mined resource upgrade colonists in the marketplace. Will there be other opportunities for them to earn Mars4? Yes.
Renting of vehicles is one that will be coming out very soon. Looks like we need to update the white paper. So renting of vehicles is another one. That's a way for not only renting of vehicles, and once colonists are added to the MCC, renting of colonists. So there will be even access for kind of investor style interactions in the game without owning a land, just via the MCC, via owning colonists or vehicles. And then you have the things that you mentioned of playing the game, actively mining resources, producing things, and selling them on the market, etc. So the reality is there is many different angles for non-land owners to still engage in the marketplace and earn Mars4.
Yeah. So yeah, productivity score is one of those, like a passive income generator. So all our NFTs, they have that, and then you have active ways. So always look for 2 ways of getting revenue out of Mars4 NFTs. Actually, I want to share this. Thanks, Hodler King. Game ecosystem is a bit tricky to balance. I think there is a key to have a working system based on the need to consistent testing, updates. Nothing is perfect even in real life. Let's go.
Yeah, and very true. Yes, iterative development.
And this supports what we are trying to achieve lately. So one part is this browser-based MCC game. On the other hand, we want to have a full single-player game mechanics for you to experience Mars. And we're trying to break those down into small experiments, and it's all about the testing and updates. And very good example is again this patch and this optimization which Nick and you and your team released. We've been releasing but not optimizing things. And this is a good example. You spare some time for optimization, and then you have such a huge performance increase. Does the algorithm for Win try not to die down during the night for too long, or is it random?
It's fairly random, but at least the current version of it is fairly random. but it tries to avoid being dead for too long in a chain. Night or day doesn't matter, but I think it avoids being dead for over 8 hours, just for gameplay balancing purposes. But that's something I foresee changing a lot. And also with the solar panels at the moment, the variety in power change is quite limited. Like it's just a staircase. We'll be looking at smoothing that out as well. And
Okay.
so I'm sure there'll be a lot of balancing modifications and feedback based on what you guys say.
And then again, James, if you have some suggestions, ideas, yeah, hop on Discord. Yeah, just get in touch with us. We're ready to take them. What's the end of the game of Mars4? What are you guys trying to achieve? Is it going to be VR, AR on Facebook Meta? Why do we need Meta?
I don't see us limiting ourselves to any one platform. There's no need for it. Like already, you see, even at this stage of development, we're still trying to look at being as cross-platform as possible, supporting the MCC on browser, full 3D game on a PC. We'll look at expanding it to Mac. After that, we'll be looking at consoles and mobile. The end game, I think, is a balance between an active, engaging game and community and a layer of investor play, if you could say, on top of that, investor trader interactions. Similar to what you see in many games, similar to what you see in stuff like EVE Online or Second Life, or like these types of games where you have gameplay elements, but then there also is strong economic elements, and you have people who play for one or the other or both. And we're aiming to do something like that, which we've seen works. Like there's a lot of stable game ecosystems and economies that work like that. But up until this point, no one's really successfully transferred that more in-depth style game into the play-to-earn economy and Web3, and that's the opportunity we see that we're going to capture.
Thing Dang, just to add on, our ultimate goal is to achieve that you virtually will be able to terraform Mars into the green planet and move yourself from the Earth up there. How do we achieve that? So Nick just explained in a few multiple ways. There's Muskan is quite actively pasting this. Please make this game like we don't have to download. We can easily run in Chrome browser or so. Are there any things like this in the plan?
It is a direction we're working towards. The important thing that I keep mentioning when we discuss like running on different platforms is the earlier we support more platforms, the slower development progresses, because then each time we make an update, we have to make that update for every single platform. So at the moment, that isn't a huge focus of ours. However, you can see that already we're going in that direction with the reduction in the download size by so much. That's the first step. And then we'll be looking into more streaming of content and so forth to reduce that even further. Because when you run a game in Chrome, doesn't mean you don't need to download it.
Exactly.
When you open up the Chrome web page to play it, that's when you're downloading it before you can play it. The loading bar or whatever you're getting, you're downloading the game. So the first step to be able to make that transition over to Chrome is get the initial download to be able to start playing so low that it's something that someone could acceptably wait, actively watch a loading bar fill before playing. And that is the direction we're going. But as I explained before, we don't want to spread onto too many consoles, too many platforms too quickly, because that just slows down overall development. So it's a balance.
Good answer. Thanks, Nick. Colonist procreation, breeding colonists. Do we have any ideas like this?
It's something we've discussed a lot, but at the moment we still haven't made any steps in that direction, because that's another thing that could it would be difficult to balance economically, because colonists are an asset in our game. So by allowing assets to duplicate over time without time investment from a player, that's like potentially a runaway economy league. So at the moment, we haven't progressed down that direction at all for those reasons.
Yeah, plus following our game lore, one of the things we are focused to deliver the first wave of colonists. So these are the very first, who've been working on some other projects on the moon, so they're really experienced guys, and these guys, will help you, to build the colonies on Mars. What will happen next? We will see. As Nick mentioned, there are plenty of opportunities, to balance and to throw things in there. But probably we will discuss with you guys as well. Yeah, something like that. I think we're done for today. We usually keep our tradition answering all the community questions. Some things are not very comfortable. Yeah. Is aliens are invited in our Mars4 project?
Not yet.
They're
not invited, but they may show up uninvited.
Brilliant. Yep. Thanks, James, for participating. Yeah, really interesting questions. Yeah, great Thanksgiving.
Thanks, everyone. That's a good point. James said, "Happy Thanksgiving to everyone who is in the States," and we'll see each other again soon, and on Discord as always.
Yeah, and in the meantime, let's not forget we still keep on Karkanda sale open for whitelist, and from tomorrow it will be open for everyone. So yeah, you can still get yourself a classic and the legendary. And yeah, if you have any questions, you know where to find us. So
see you soon. Thank you, guys. Cheers.
See you soon. Bye.